Welcome to the broadcast, my dear old fruits. We managed to avoid talking about the Harkles for most of the last broadcast, I think, but I'm afraid it's time to focus on them again today because the material just keeps on coming, doesn't it? As does the mockery. Because Willy Wonka has been shaking in his boots, hasn't he, my dear? A new chocolatier is in town, Chez Markle, with 3 limited edition bars, so they say, that have sold out. How many were on offer? 6. The design of these chocolate bars forms a triptych to ensnare customers into purchasing all 3 of the flavours, which have been described as disgusting. Weird and disgusting. And I'm a great fan of chocolate and all the different flavours, but I have to say those who are saying that it sounds disgusting do have a point. They might look rather pretty. I've got to tell you, I like the packaging, I truly do. It's in collaboration with some other kind of brand, but these flavours can be very tricksy and it will feel like you are basically chewing on a tub load of pubes or cement because she sprinkles her flowers over the top and all kinds of crumbs. And what's really disgusting is the price. $12 a bar. Let that sink in. $12 a bar, which is £9. That's absolutely disgusting. Now, if you're going to provide me with a real luxury brand with great, solid, superior, elevated ingredients, I'll pay $15. But for this muck, sprinkled with weeds, I don't think so, my dear. And using signature ingredients, as they call it, from the brand, I'm afraid that this is a surefire road to indigestion. Milk chocolate with shortbread cookies and bee pollen is the first offering. Then it's white chocolate with flower sprinkles and hemp hearts. Well, you could call that Meghan Markle flavour, couldn't you, my dear? White chocolate with flower sprinkles and hemp. Dark chocolate with raspberry spread and sea salt is the third offering. Bound to be a great disappointment for the price, my dear, no matter if you love chocolate or not. The packaging does look pretty though, but it's style over substance is how I feel about it. If you look at the high growth chocolate for comparison, then that is superior, it's organic, and it's several pounds cheaper. It comes in about 2/3 of the price, and more so some of them. So what exactly are we paying all of this extra for? This bespoke triptych, I suppose. Anyway, we're going to return to Meghan in a moment, but Harry's been up to it too, hasn't he? Harry's been making a complete and utter tit of himself. Truly. Now, I'm a huge fan, by the way, of American comedy. It's a gold standard for many forms of comedy, from old Billy Wilder, some like it hot back in the day, through to Friends and beyond. I'm sure I love Friends, you know. Comedy that can make one laugh out loud, but I've never understood, I've got to tell you, on the flip, I've never understood the popularity of your Saturday Night Live hosts. Not just that show, I don't know much about them, but basically they're usually men, aren't they? I mean, Ellen DeGeneres as well, I've never understood her appeal. But I know she's a morning show gal, but all of your late night hosts, they don't float my boat, but there's a difference of humour, isn't there, in the translation going on here. But they're all very, very pleased with themselves. All seem to think they're God's gift to humour, and all captivated by their own wit. I suppose they're just not my bag, you know, we've all got a different funny bone, haven't we? And Harry's is called Little Todge, but it's the inanity. It's the forced laughter from the crowd, and you can see it in this clip with Harry, and you can see that he appears, they remain in their seats and kind of scream a little bit, probably because the warm-up guy is telling them to, and then just very slowly 1 or 2 of them get up into an ovation, and the rest is sort of, oh God, it's like in church, when yet another hymn comes on at a funeral and you've got to stand up again, sit down, up, down, sit down, blah, blah, blah. If we must get up, yes, for royalty, here we go, they're forced into it. It's so hammy, the whole affair, you know. And that includes James Corden, by the way, who's a Britisher, and he happens to have a very good comic talent, he really does, but I don't care for the clips I've seen him do of this American format. But H is intent, it seems, on joining in with this club, isn't he? He really wants to be a part of it. It's his version, his US version of I'm hail fellow well met. Well, he's trying to do the same thing as a Yank. And what's motivating him into these scenarios is absolutely baffling. Is someone prodding and poking him from behind? Could that be Rachel Ragland? Or could it be Natos Figueres? The mind boggles, but it is absolutely baffling what is motivating him to make an utter and complete tit of himself again and again and again. The papers have been calling it cringe, and I'll tell you that it is. I can confirm that it is utterly cringeworthy. But actually, Harry's performance compares well with some of the other characters that they get onto these things. He actually gave it a decent crack. What was cringeworthy is the writing. It's terrible. That's what cringes me out. It's the entire affair of these shows that cringes me out. That how this material makes anybody laugh, I'll never understand. You imagine watching it without the canned laughter, if it was a silent room, you know, like this. Maybe I should start playing canned laughter into proceedings. That'd get things going. But as you know, I'm famed for my modesty, you see. So I don't need to blow my own trumpet, okay? I've got somebody else to do that. But, you know, I'm told every day in the comments how your sides out there are splitting. They're splitting and you're uproarious with vocal laughter and you're folding over double. Look through the comments if you think that I'm peeing on your leg and telling you it's raining. It's the truth, I tell you, it's the truth. You know, I don't need all this paraphernalia. This is a no fancy frills affair, and I don't need that great big budget to entertain. In fairness, I did see one columnist claiming to have enjoyed it. In the Times, actually, I was quite surprised to see that. I thought, ooh, and I raised an eyebrow, but then I Googled him, and I discovered that his usual home is The Guardian. For non-Britishers, it's a rather left-leaning publication. It's a little bit woke gone mad, and a little bit special, you see, so it all made sense. It all made sense then. The edgy moments that have been making the headlines are a reference to King George III, although centuries ago, of course, one of his great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers, Harry called him a jerk, in humour, of course, and he referred to President Trump as an elected king and made a joke out of it. Now listen, this is very mild in the world of jokes and humour, and folk can joke about anything at all. Doesn't offend me, and even if it does, you know, so fucking what, you know. The world is much more fun with offence in it. My objection is actually a moral one. It's a moral one because his father, Harry's father, is king of this kingdom and all of his realms at this moment in time, and he's liaising with head of states, including President Trump, on a weekly basis, a daily basis, and so this is unprecedented vulgarity. In all seriousness, this is unprecedented vulgarity. Can you imagine anybody getting up to these kinds of tricks in public? I mean, okay, you can say what you like about the other second son, although he was the third child, wasn't he, Andrew? You can say what you like about him, but at least he had the decency to do it behind closed doors. It's selfish behaviour from a son with a living king on the throne of England too. Do you understand? Well, that's enough of this clown for today. That's enough of him, and it's on to the other one. Because With Love, Meghan holiday celebration hit Netflix, didn't it? Did you tune in to see the horror that it is? Because it's been met with derision, it's been met with mockery, and it's been met with scathing reviews. Oh dear, the poor girl can't get a break. You'd think that she had no talent whatsoever, wouldn't you? They've been calling it nothing more than white noise. But I'm 43% Nigerian, she cries. I make noise of colour, not white noise like Kate. It's just noise, you windbag. And as I'm sure you noticed, Meghan not being content with mining all of the fruit references and the theme regarding fruit from my show, as we've seen her do, she finally goes for gold, my dear old fruits. She finally goes for gold and brings into the equation the golden pear. And all of a sudden she's stirring up pear syrup and she's baking pears on this episode just to try and spite me, I'm sure. And the whole affair begins with her gambling around a field, picking out a Christmas tree. Or, I can't remember what she called it, probably a holiday tree. She dare put the Christian faith in her mouth in case she offends all of her followers, of course, you understand. probably a holiday tree, but she trims the tree with instructions sincere on how to place fairy lights, just in case you didn't know. She tucks them right into the center so that everything looks like it's illuminating from within. How to place fairy lights and all the baubles. She advises one to encapsulate your family story. What would that be, Meghan? Betrayal? Treachery? Isolation? No, thank you very much. Really feel the passage of time, she urges us. I've got no desire to feel your passage, my dear. That's Harry's job. She talks the talk, this girl, doesn't she? But the trees that she shows us, actually, while perfectly lovely looking trees, they really were, very generic. Didn't have the personal touch. I expect that's not for our eyes. You know, she keeps that at home, shielded away. Her real home, not the set. But she shows us one affair strewn with gold ornaments, and it looks lovely in a shopping mall kind of way. And another one with oranges, one of my favourite ways to decorate the tree. Very, very nice it was. But Buckingham Palace's version, the King's version, is cosier, more charming and more authentic. I expect she's been influenced by my pomanders too, but okay. Okay, I'll give her that one because it was filmed in advance, wasn't it? So, you know, this is just Christmas fakery going on at the moment. It was probably filmed a long time ago, but yeah. Don't be surprised if the next few things that turn up in the future involve pomanders, because I've been making them. And she also makes an advent calendar in this episode, but we all know that she'd rather be posing for the Pirelli calendar, wouldn't she, my dear? But it probably wouldn't sell, let's face it. Then she goes on to make a rather disgusting looking snack called reindeer chow, apparently based, you know, it's a twist on puppy chow that she used to make as a child. It's a cereal snack. She used to make it for her math teacher, who was called Miss Linda. I got so excited that she loved something that I made. Yeah, that makes sense, because admiration, you see, that is manna to the child narcissist. Absolute manna to a budding narcissist. It's that warm, embery glow of flattery that got her addicted, didn't it? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, Meghan dear, that rather than reindeer chow, it reminded me more of reindeer droppings, and it probably tasted worse. She flirts and cozies up to her guests. Do you notice? And this first guest happened to be her friend's husband, one of her friend's husbands, and he wrote a cookbook that she purports to love. And they make up something called, what is it, cacio e pepe gougere, something like that. I don't know how it's pronounced, but she's all flirty. And she's got all the coy eye business going on, and she's giving it all of that bunny rabbit face that she does, you know. Total bunny rabbit going on there. She says, take that home for your wife, and we can nibble on that. Nibble on a carrot, Miss Bunny, or something else? What are you insinuating? I will throw her a compliment. As for her appearance, I've got nothing to complain about. I think she looked really nice. Really, yes, I do. I think she looks nice. Even with the bunny faces she's putting, you know. Critics can point to her laughter lines and creases that are popping up here and there. Well, actually, I continue to say that I give her props for that. I continue to say that I would prefer that, and actually I enjoy seeing lines pop up here and there over boiled egg smoothness. Do you understand? It's much more preferable to that. So yes, you can see her moving around, her brow furrows, her eyebrows move, little bunny whiskers spring up here and there. Perhaps she forgot to have a shave, but when all's said and done, that's a living, lively face, and I thoroughly approve of that. You know, the rumours of her recent surgeries and facelift are not true. She speaks about the fact that when she was living in the UK, actually, you were living in England, dear. England, say the word, England. You're in England as part of the kingdom. You don't have to be so globalist. But when she was living in the UK, apparently crackers were all the rage. Well, of course they are. They are all the rage. But she says that Britishers pull crackers by crossing arms like this and pulling them apart. Well, maybe that goes on at Sandringham. I must admit I haven't actually spent Christmas Day at Sandringham. as I think she did, but maybe that is a tradition there. But pulling crackers, no. You simply hold it in front of one other person and you tug away, and someone wins the prize, which is usually something really crap, and the crackers are usually really overpriced decoration with very disappointing toys inside and the odd joke and a paper crown. But I will agree that it is a good idea to make them at home, so I'm on board with her there. It's a much better idea to make homemade crackers and actually put something decent inside them. I've got an uncle who used to put lots of money and he used to shove them inside the crackers, so you thought you'd be getting some weird key ring or a puzzle, but it'd be a great big wad of notes. Wonderful, that was all. Them were the days, them were the days. No, we cross arms for Auld Lang Syne. Is that what she's getting it confused with at the new year? For Auld Lang Syne, you might remember that the late Queen famously was filmed singing Auld Lang Syne for Millennium. I've seen the footage. She was next to the Blairs, who roped her into attending this gig at the Millennium Dome, and she was actually roundly criticised because she did not cross her arms, and it was very awkward to watch, I've got to tell you. But I think you could see Prince Philip bursting into laughter about the whole affair, and I think the Queen was finding it jolly funny too. I could see in her eyes that she was. And they were the only two in the entire place, the entire venue, Philip and Elizabeth, that did not cross their arms for Auld Lang Syne, and they just kind of held them to the side and bobbed up and down. But, no, it was not the fact that the late Queen was too royal and regal to do something so undignified, and it was not the fact that she didn't know. What it was is the fact that having such love for Scotland, spending so much time in Scotland and knowing Hogmanay so well, she knew that the way was to not cross arms until the last verse, which most people don't know and don't bother really singing or playing. Traditionally, for Hogmanay, you do link arms side to side exactly as she and Philip did, and then later for the third verse, then you cross the breast with your arms. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and think that she was simply trying to go along with protocol. Then we are treated to a long intellectual discussion on how to fill a cracker. And it has to be heard to be believed, but I don't recommend that you go and listen to it. I mean, you know, this kind of thing would be perfectly acceptable on Blue Peter or Sesame Street. The inanity of the saccharine conversation between these two middle-aged individuals is astonishing and quite disturbing. And I'm going to tell you, you'll find more enterprise, more ideas, more creativity at a kindergarten. Seriously. But the idea of homemade gifts, of course, lovely. Thoroughly approve of all that. But the jejune execution, cosplaying as adult entertainment, is like a detention after hours for special ed. Indeed. Do you remember in the original Hairspray with Ricky Lake, Tracy Turnblad? Special ed class? Yeah, this is what we're talking about. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but it's not at my Christmas table. So she talks about her daughter. She says, Lily really likes trying to be a grown-up lady at the moment. Well, so did I at her age, my dear. But like mother, like daughter, actually. Because that's what you try and do, isn't it, Meghan? You try cosplaying as a grown-up all the time, but most people don't fall for it, as they're not doing in this circumstance. Well, at least she's not a quitter. We've got to give her that, in that respect. She might quit the kingdom, but she's not a quitter in trying to convince us of all types of lies. I'm sure that Lily is actually the one who is making a great deal more of a success at the attempt to convince us that she's a grown-up than you, Meghan. Isn't that something? And as for Meghan's friend's husband, I can't even remember the boy's name, but he really gets into the cracker making. Oh, it's a spectacle to watch. To watch them both cracking absolutely terrible jokes throughout the entire affair. You know, they call this kind of TV that's coming up now, or streaming, whatever it is. TV sounds so old-fashioned now, doesn't it? Apparently it's this new type of genre called ambient TV, which, you know, it's just basically background noise for the hoovering, which I encourage you to do. When you're watching my show, my dear, you can take it as background noise, but this is specifically being created, knowing that there's no substance to it, but if we just put this soundtrack of Motown music over the top and some really pretty photography, camera work over it with food and eye candy, then, you know, people just keep it playing in the background and the adverts will run. That's how they're doing it. But can you imagine Harry and Meghan both at home, wisecracking, making jokes and goofballing all over the place as if they're Noel Coward and Lucille Ball? Yeah, I get the feeling that's what it's like in their household. They're very pleased with their humour and their wit. He, the great talk show guest that's hugely in demand for being such a wit, and Meghan, she's just so funny and so adorable. She's just such a ham, you know. Friends love having her around to illuminate proceedings. Ooh, how ghastly. I did find it slightly odd, I will tell you, for a heterosexual man such as her guest to enjoy these shenanigans in quite the way that he did. I mean, one can understand it. Of course, you can expect the enthusiasm from one of her hired gays. And in fact, Daniel Martin was on hand with a powder puff throughout the entire debacle. Or, you know, you could expect it of someone somewhere on some kind of spectrum. But a fully grown straight guy, I ask you, what hope is there for the modern debutante? That's what I ask. There are a gazillion YouTubers, by the way, who are producing content that is more watchable, more entertaining, and more engaging than this tripe. And they do it on 1,000th of the budget, if there is a budget at all. It's obscene, isn't it? And she's got the temerity, the brazen cheek, to talk about grace in this segment. She harps on and on about grace as if she's at all familiar with the concept of it at all. She says, as a hostess, it's about grace, because to me, grace is making people feel comfortable. Well, you've just highlighted your own ignorance, my dear, because no, that is not grace. It's graciousness. Get it right. But you possess neither, by the way, grace or graciousness, so don't worry about it, love. But disgrace, now disgrace, that is another matter. Speaking of which, she then appears in red pyjamas. She tells us that her dear friend Lindsay from the school days has a family tradition to wear matching pyjamas on holidays, which Meghan has joined in with when she was Rachel. And then, so there's Lindsay, then another one of her besties, Kelly, is invited along to join in all of the fun, and they prepare a brunch, and there's going to be festive cinnamon stars, baby quiches, quiche Florentine and quiche Lorraine, she says. Quiche Lorraine. Yeah. There is a vulgarity in pronouncing it quiche Lorraine, and it is pronounced in the kingdom in that manner. I've always found it slightly vulgar because, of course, it is from a region in the east of France called Lorraine. Forgive my pronunciation, I never get it quite right. Perhaps it is because, actually, Lorraine puts her in mind of La Reine, the Queen. Remember, the dusty old white woman that you disparage, Meghan? Is that why you don't like to call a quiche Lorraine a quiche Lorraine? Or is it simply because you're stupid? Then we get on to wreath making with the girls. Yeah, we're going to make a wreath. Perhaps she's anticipating Catherine's demise. Is that why she's getting so excited about the wreath making? Or the king's demise? Rubbing her hands together with glee, the chops salivating. She starts wrapping some gifts, and then, what do we have on the menu? A crudité platter. Didn't she do this last time in series 1? Another platter of dried up old vegetables. A crudité platter. She puts a load of vegetables in a pile on a platter as if she is assembling a Roman mosaic at Fishbourne Palace. And I found myself nodding off at this point, actually at several points throughout the whole affair. The editors know that people are falling asleep, so then they push this inane instrumental in this part. It was Ding Dong Merrily on High, one of my favourites. But it was an inane version to try and distract from the vacuity going on. And then some sports star friend joined her, a female sports star. I can't remember her name, but I'm sure she's good. I liked her. Now, I liked this one. I thought she was cool. And she was the least irritating of the bunch, more real. So God knows what she's doing hanging out with Meghan. But she was there, and I liked her. And then there was Tom Colicchio, who is on the Top Chef show. Maybe all the budget went on her guests. And she introduces him as a chef and restaurateur. Nice try, Meghan. It's a restaurateur. There is no N in the word, darling. Restaurateur. Not restaurateur. She says, a little bird told me that Tom likes candied gingers. She's flirting with her guests again. Well, so do you, Meghan. You like candied gingers, didn't you? You married one. Or at least you pretend to. And she gets on with making her pear and ginger syrup. Oh, they're a right pair, aren't they? They are pear and ginger. Move over, Fred. It's pear. Pear shape and ginger you've got here. Doria. Then Doria is brought into the mix, not in the flesh, you understand. I'm surprised she hasn't brought her out to do a little spot. But Doria apparently has been making gumbo for Christmas Eve. No one whips up a gumbo like Doria Raglan, this is what we're told. Oh, makes such a big deal out of Doria's. She's the golden girl, isn't she? Everything she does is gold. Gold, according to Harry and Meghan. Everything she grows in the garden. In that green space in the garden. Everything that's homegrown in the American Riviera orchard is good stuff. Ooh, yeah. Ayahuasca. It's good stuff. Yeah. Well, talk about reinforcing stereotypes, Gumbo and Doria. I mean, seriously. Are you going to tell us that she gave birth to RuPaul as well? And you know why I say that, because RuPaul Charles, of course, his mama called him RuPaul. It's his real name. Can you believe it? The gayest name in the entire world in the history of man. RuPaul. She actually named him RuPaul because she was famous for her gumbo, and she would make it up using her special roux, which Meghan does in this. She brews up the roux, you know, gets that on the boil. And yeah, she named her son after it, RuPaul. So what can we expect for Meghan coming up? Rue Meg? Rue Doria? Rue Rachel? Or Rue the Day? Speaking of which, in trots Harry. Oh no, he doesn't yet, sorry. But she tells us that Harry hates beetroot, or as it's known in the US, beets. He doesn't like beetroot, he doesn't like black olive. Well, that's you, isn't it, Meghan? They do say you look like olive oil. He doesn't like that, he doesn't like fennel, and he doesn't like pickled vegetables, which is what they're just about to make. He doesn't like anything on the menu. They continue to go on making salt cod, but then the smell of the gumbo, the whiff of the gumbo on the boil seduces Harry, and he comes trotting into the kitchen. He appears like Jack in the Box around the corner. Hi guys, I smell gumbo, I smell gumbo. That's your wife, love. That's your wife. Maybe that's why she's my favourite smell. Now we know what it is, gumbo. Fennel might be too complex for his palate, but gumbo's fine. Gumbo's just fine. He's not a fan of anchovies. I don't like anchovies either, so I can agree with him on that, or seafood in general. It's not my cup of tea. But I will, you know, wrap my review up with a compliment, which is that apart from the fact I thought she looked quite decent, I didn't find it obnoxiously heavy on the merch and on all of the products that she's trying to sell, even though, of course, it's all subtly on parade, and I'm sure it's all linked and promoted as one would expect, but it could have been a lot worse in that respect. It could have been a lot worse, so it sort of stands alone. But at this stage, it almost feels cruel to tease the girl about it, because it's just been blanket derision and mockery all over the press for this waste of time, waste of space. And I wish you a beautiful weekend, my dears. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. If I made you chuckle, you could consider treating me to a cup of coffee and a pain au chocolat in my tip jar, which is found in the description box. See you next time, my dears. Thank you, and ta-ra. Toodle pip.